If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.
Welcome to this episode of the Superyacht Laundry podcast. These are our brand new episodes after our little refresh, a little bit of a rebrand. Tales from the Superyacht Laundry was just a bit of a mouthful. So we are now just the Superyacht Laundry podcast. And I've got a fantastic first guest, although she's been on before. Natalie, welcome back.
Thank you. It's very good to be back.
The reason why you're back, obviously, if listeners heard your episode, obviously you worked on board, then you wanted to work into the health, work in the health sphere. But I haven't had anybody on to talk about hormones.
Yeah, it's literally my favorite subject. The thing I talk about every single day.
The magical mystery world of hormones.
And it is magical and it is mysterious.
Why did I want to talk about hormones? Obviously, from a personal standpoint, I'm perimenopausal. Great.
Yeah,
news.
Fun times, huh?
Yeah, no, loving that experience. I did avoid talking about menopause for a very long time in my life. I was just hoping that it would just skip me past.
Yeah.
But it's not. So yes, wanted to talk about hormones, the glory of, but let's go back.
Should we summarize?
So if you are listening to this episode for the first time and you don't know the glorious Natalie Watkins, who are you? What have you been doing?
Who am I? Okay, so yes, I did spend some time working as a chef on board Superyachts. And not a huge long career on Superyachts at all, because I had a big career beforehand. I joined the industry quite late as a result of COVID. So I was a fitness instructor for 17 years. I had my own fitness studio. It was really busy. I taught aerial hoops, silks, pole, and flexibility for fun and fitness. Had 200 people a week coming to the classes. It was great. And then COVID happened and everything closed. Including my doors. And after about, I think it was 7 months, it became apparent that to open the doors again was going to be very difficult and challenging. So I pivoted and I
love the word pivot.
Pivot. So yeah, then I ran away, joined the superyacht industry, and I was working as a chef. I had already been extremely interested in cooking, and I had done some catering events. So I was always the go-to person to cater for things, the amount of people that I knew. So I was already a cook, I would say. And then I didn't plan on being a chef when I ran away for the boats. So I did intend to be outside on deck getting a suntan. And very quickly I got shoehorned into the kitchen because of my experience, really. And really enjoyed my time on board. But I realize now that was leading me to what I do now, and that is putting everything together. So I had this fitness industry career for such a long time. I was really into, all things health. And I really helped people. People would come to my PT sessions or classes, and I would help more than just physically. Yeah. It was, you do end up being a little bit of a therapist in a way for people. Yes.
Everything's connected. But people would complain about things that I just really wouldn't know how to help them. I can get them fitter and stronger and maybe lose some weight. But then, when people were coming in with,
chronic fatigue and, really heavy periods that it's so bad they can't leave the house sometimes. I don't know how to help that. And I wished I could. Anyway, then I went away working in a kitchen, really dialed in on the nutrition side of things. Like they teach you when I did my PT qualifications years ago, that they teach you a bit about the nutrition. Then you think you know it all. You really don't. It's not about calories in versus calories out. Like, no, it doesn't work like that.
I mean, it's not like all of the things. I think lots of different areas. There is new, nutrition is, we've had obviously yourself on, you talked about it briefly last time, and then other individuals. It's a lot more complicated than we ever.
Oh my God, it's so in depth, and it's changing and evolving all the time, which is amazing. But qualification wise, that takes time, and it doesn't adapt to the new research the same way that we can adapt when we learn. We go looking for that research ourselves and find it. Once I was working in the food industry, on boards, dealing with food intolerances, dealing with allergies, dealing with health conditions, you really realize how much food is medicine, and how important it is. And for wellness as well, crew, you work bloody hard. And so you need the right fuel for that. And if you get the wrong fuel for that, everything suffers in, your life and work.
We've talked about that quite a bit on I think that's one of the things that the industry might look at or start looking at. We've talked about a lot of things in isolation, but like crew welfare in general, there are lots of parts of that. And the food on board, I mean, I would like to say that I ate the best that I've ever ate on board, but then that's because it just all tasted amazing. But that might not necessarily mean it could have been the best fuel for me to get through the day. Yeah. Because there's a difference between that. Yeah. The chef has created, I remember one chef created the most insane burgers that I've ever had in my entire life. And they made this coleslaw. There's one particular chef, I always talk about his coleslaw, and he was like, it's not hard. It wasn't special. But for me, it was like, I didn't know it could taste so good. Yeah. But was that the healthiest fuel meal that I've ever been dished up in the crew mess? Possibly. Probably not. It was, it was lovely. But is it the right thing to eat at lunchtime and then try and get through the rest of the day? Because obviously it's quite a big meal and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a bit of a difference, I think, with, obviously I have been on a boat where they've served awful food, like basically pasta for crew every single day. Yeah. Anybody who listens to this regularly, you probably would have heard about me bitch about that one chef. It wasn't clean and just served pasta all the time. Yeah. So pasta. But I would say generally the food is good. Yeah. But I think now the questions are: is it right? Yeah. I think that might be the new one. Unfortunately, that is really on an individual basis. Yeah. Because it depends on so many factors of what would be right for you. May not be right for me, may not be right for the guy out on deck all day. Or what's good for your hormones. Or what's good for your hormones and where you are in your life and all your genetics. There's so many factors. Obviously, a chef can't cater for everyone in that way. But if you know that information out of the food available, you can make informed decisions. So you started with nutrition and then hormone? So once I was working in the industry, I knew that this wasn't a forever thing. I started training as a functional health practitioner. So functional health brought everything together for me. So that is the health movement, information about the body from my previous career, and then nutrition and well-being from,
the second career, and then it literally tied everything together for me. And I look back now and I think about all those clients of mine from before that would come in and, tell me about their chronic fatigue. And I'd be like, I really have no experience in that. I have no idea what that is even like. Now I look back and I think, I really could have helped them in this way. But, I needed to go on that journey to get to where I am now. So, I qualified as a functional health practitioner, and then I moved back to the UK, where I'm from, and I now have a online clinic. There's a global clinic that I specialize in yacht crew, but I can help anyone, especially busy professionals, in busy lives like yacht crew are. And I help people with their health. Now, that does make me a hormone specialist because hormones dictate everything. Like everything. So although I'm a functional health practitioner that specializes in hormones, because that is the basis of everything. There are over 50 different hormones. They dictate your personality. They dictate your choices, your decision making. They dictate everything.
So would you say, just trying to think out loud, it's the mind, hormones are the interface from mental or consciousness to the physical? So the hormones are that transition.
Absolutely.
Of who you think
they are who you are. They are who you are.
Into pushing said person into the physical form, which is your body.
Yeah, and that changes. Isn't that terrifying?
You're talking to somebody who's going through perimenopause.
Who you think you are today may not be who you are tomorrow because your hormones have shifted in some way.
I think women have got probably a different perspective on that, because the first shift is when you start having periods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for women, guys, I'm sure it changes. Yeah. But for women, we change straight out the gate.
So I do have male clients because I work a lot with gut issues, and which is a hormone issue, although men wouldn't necessarily make that connection. But yes, I do work with men's hormones. Normally in is like a gut issue or something like that. But so men have all the same hormones we do, but women are just more complicated. I'm sorry. Okay, men,
really?
Yeah, men, I love you, but you are just more simple humans. And women are just a little bit more complicated.
Well, we're the ones that kind of need to create life.
Yeah.
So there are the guys have stages. The inspiration with the factory.
Yeah. So there are different stages to women. Obviously, you've got puberty, then you've got fertility, and then you've got perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. Those shifts are huge.
So much fun.
Yeah. It's a roller coaster.
Nah. Yeah, but roller coasters are fun.
Yeah. But
I don't see the upside to any of these things.
I can tell you the upside. Upside is, so one, speaking to you who's perimenopausal age, then that can go on for years and years.
I know.
Yeah. But then...
Can you see the video in my voice?
So then you've got menopause, and then you've got postmenopause. How liberating is that? How liberating will it be to get to that point where you're like,
I don't have to wear unpacks anymore.
Yeah, liberating. This is you also won't care about lots of other things that you used to care about.
Well, I suppose it's the first, since obviously before you went through puberty, that will be the most consistent mood you'll ever be in.
Yes.
So, on a previous episode on the podcast, we were talking about why female crew access resources a bit easier, find it easier to access. It's because from day dot, we are constantly in touch with medical professionals.
Right.
Because it is more, like you said, it's more complicated. Mm-hmm. Even if it's all working well downstairs, there's infections, there's, smear tests, there's all we've got medical professionals all over us. So that resistance isn't there because we are generally forced to get engaged with the medical profession quite early on.
Yeah. And that's good and positive. Not always necessary.
So women are more complicated.
Women are more complicated. And I think yacht crew are especially vulnerable because you are away and sort of out of that loop for long periods of time, and you have a job to do that you just have to get on with. And you know, I've helped people that you can't be having periods that floor you every single month when you've got a busy charter season. Like, that's just not an option. You got to get on with it. So you shouldn't have to live in a world where you are flawed like that every month. Like, a painful period, periods shouldn't be painful. If they are, there is an imbalance there that can be helped. People live with stuff so long that they don't need to.
Well, it's like the women's mentality. You kind of just tough it out. I don't have time to be ill, so I'll just crack on.
But then that also comes along with gut issues, gut imbalances, microbiome issues. Again, these are life-affecting conditions or symptoms, life-affecting symptoms that affect people, and they don't have to live that way. There is your body's number one job is homeostasis, okay? Balance. That's what your body wants, and your body will buffer you for decades, and it will buffer everything for you. It wants you to survive.
That's nice.
It is, yeah, isn't it nice? But it does mean that eventually, especially when there's a big hormonal shift, like perimenopause, for example, eventually your body goes, I've been doing this for 2 decades and now I don't have the bandwidth left to deal with this. So that's when we see the fallout. So it's normally in perimenopause where we see a bit of fallout happening, and it's just where your body's been buffering you for something else for a really, really long time. Now it doesn't have that bandwidth. Now it goes, I can't do everything. I'm dealing with this whole hormonal thing going on right now. I can't do everything. Something's got to give. And that's when we start seeing symptoms. And that's when we go, okay, what is it that we need to like borrow some bandwidth so that it can deal with this huge hormonal thing? So, you know, perimenopause starts roughly around age 36, which is a lot younger than people think.
Yeah.
And there are many a crew out there that are in their 30s and that may be seeing some of these symptoms, and they'll just be like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, this other thing.
Before we get into the perimenopause, I think we should go back to the beginning in a way. So obviously when you go through puberty, now I am, you know, rightly or wrongly, I was a individual that never got on taking the pill.
Mm-hmm.
I tried probably 2 times in my life, but the only way I can describe it is I felt like it was changing my personality.
It will be. Yeah.
I actually felt like I was different and I didn't like it.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
That's really intuitive of you to have noticed that.
Really, really didn't like it. I felt really uncomfortable. I just didn't. I tried it twice because, you know, I will confess I had like a termination, and then the health professionals were like, you need to get on something, you know, rightly so. Tried and I just couldn't do it.
So here's my thought process on it. So the pill, for example, especially people our age, okay, was given out, and I believe it still is, but maybe things are changing, given out like Smarties. There was no informed consent, okay, when it came to giving out the pill. You could walk into a doctor's surgery when you were 14, 15 and be like, I'm going to get on the pill because all my friends are. And
they just pick whatever one as well. It's not like they tailored it to you.
No. They'll give you the cheapest. They'll give you the cheapest, which, you know, back in the day it was like Yasmin, microgynon, you know, remember all those? Yeah. So they'll throw them at you. There's no informed consent. No one sits you down, which I think is criminal. No one sits you down and makes you sign a waiver to say that you understand what this pill is doing to you. especially at that age, because that age is when your hormones are sort of like working out their flow. Like they're working out, okay, what kind of person we are, how we are going to run this body, this meat suit that we have. And when you put something in like that, you are disrupting that, and you're potentially disrupting that forever, for good. So what I see in clinic is a lot of post-pill PCOS, okay, which is life affecting.
Don't use acronyms.
So
what?
So post-pill. So once you come off the pill, the years spent on the pill has caused you to have polycystic ovary syndrome,
right?
Which doesn't necessarily mean cysts on the ovaries. That is it's a very broad spectrum term for damage, for like hormonal damage, and there's lots of different symptoms. Symptoms can vary wildly between different people. And people across the pond, they tend to call it PCOS, which I actually prefer. But PCOS.
It makes it sound, bearable.
Yeah, not fun. But so, yeah, there's huge pill fallout. Also, post-pill POI, which is... why has that gone out of my head?
I can imagine why.
So it's ovarian insufficiency. Okay, so it's when your ovaries go, like, just stop doing their job, and then you'll lose your periods. So people come off the pill maybe to start a family. All of a sudden, they have no periods, and that's... that's huge.
See, this is the thing with it, the medical, there's so much faith is put in the medical profession, and obviously now the internet's around and there's more information. You it's like revealing a bit of a horror show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we kind of a bit of an experiment.
Oh, hugely.
They're just like, we want to stop unwanted pregnancies. I'm like, what? So you're going to potentially stop them from having children ever?
Yeah. Like I say, there is no informed consent. No one sits you down and says that this possibly could happen to you. I mean, and when you say we're, experiment, like, we are a lifetime experiment, because if you think about it, that there are no lifetime studies for drugs. Who's going to fund that? Who's going to fund a 80, 100-year study on how this is going to affect you, how this could affect your children?
I don't think it would be Pfizer or Moderna.
It doesn't exist. So they'll test a drug for like a while, but not lifetime. People are on the pill, 15, 20 years?
I mean,
sometimes?
I'm joking about that, but, obviously somebody who was pregnant during COVID, they were talking about trying to give us the COVID jab when we were pregnant, and I was just about to give birth. And one of the friends from my NTT, she ended up getting pregnant literally a month and a bit after giving birth. And they were all over her to try and get her to take the COVID vaccine before. There was no trials done in that. Yeah. They knew nothing about what that COVID vaccine would do to pregnant women, but they were still suggesting that it might be an option.
Yeah.
So the medical profession, they know some stuff.
Yeah, of course. And the medical world I value it. There are life saving drugs out there that are absolutely necessary. I even think antibiotics, I'm not even against medication, even antibiotics have their place.
Yep.
Targeted antibiotics, that is. Broad spectrum antibiotics, I don't agree with, but unless there's absolutely no choice, I guess. But or preventative antibiotics, don't agree with. You shouldn't take stuff like that until you need it. But I do think targeted antibiotics will have a huge effect for people. There are some. I do gut microbiome tests, and there are some strains and parasites that absolutely need to be treated with antibiotics. But you can get the antibiotics for that particular parasite that you have and you have from a gut microbiome test. There's no guesswork. There's no, let's just see if this works. Well, actually, you're eradicating half of your gut microbiome, which is your immune system, which is your, affects all of your hormones. So actually, you could be feeling the effects from that for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So guessing and just throwing things at it and hoping it works, don't agree with.
So it's one of those, horrible realizations that, we are just a big lab. Yeah. Science experiment. Because there is no other way to do it, unfortunately.
There isn't.
It is trial and error.
Yeah. And like I said, you can't do studies that last 100 years.
No.
To see how it's going to affect your future generations even.
No, but you could also, I think women, there's more information now. Everybody's more informed. Yeah. And drugs are having to get better and mitigate risks, I would say. Would you say? It is kind of, we need a few more lawsuits probably for them to, start raising the game.
I don't
completely.
think even that makes a difference. I think they'll just, Phoenix rise from it in another way,
I think the fertility thing is a big deal because obviously, I don't know, if anybody can be bothered to watch the news, we're going to have a population crisis because we're not having enough babies.
Yeah, and do you know
pay for the generations that went through a huge boom.
A huge part of my clinic is fertility challenges. It is so much more common now, really and I think what we're seeing is as a result of that generation where Smarties, like the pill was given out, all these hormone disruptors at young ages for a very long time, we are now seeing the fallout of that. I'm also seeing the fallout of that in perimenopausal women. I'm sure it's not too silly to say that earlier generations, like our parents, grandparents, they just got on with it. Menopause, they just got on with it. Well, they haven't lived in the world that we've lived in. So we are now seeing the fallout from all that. And fertility challenges are huge. It's so, so common.
But also, is there a correlation with processed food? So if you talk about my nan's generation and their fertility issues.
I'm talking about all of it.
If you go back to my nan's generation, my mum's generation, their food was loads cleaner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So my generation, like 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s, we were the time of Smarties had all the colourings.
Yeah. Even the beetle one.
Yeah,
whatever that one was.
They were a bit like America. Sorry if there's anybody in America, but you've got like all of the stuff that we banned a long time ago.
Yeah.
So there's lots, let alone the experiment with contraception, but there was an environmental change, nutritional change.
Food, environment,
so your hormones don't have a chance.
I say it all the time, the modern world is trying to kill us. Our poor bodies is trying to fight against this modern world that is out to get us. Okay, no, and that the food that's available to your grandparents is not the food that's available to us now. It's just not on this earth anymore. Not there. So in 1969, the wheat grain was modified, and so the guy who did it actually won a Nobel Prize for feeding the world because it grew quicker and more resilient to weather.
But it's also shit.
But it also had 60 times more gluten in it, which is, something our bodies cannot process. And the old grain is completely gone off the earth now. And now we have to spray our stuff with, because our soils is depleted. Now we also have to spray with glyphosate, which is toxic to our bodies. We really don't stand a chance. So our food isn't available. The food that's available to us was not what our grandparents ate, which means that our bodies are going into perimenopause depleted. That we're already struggling. Like I say, we're already being buffered by our amazing meat suits that we have. But
there's a limit.
There is a limit. Something's got to give. And environmentally, for sure, it's all of it added together. And that's why we're seeing the fallout now. And it all seems to be, and yes, it's being talked about more, which is great, because of the internet and media and stuff. So we are seeing it more. Yes. Yes,
Talking about
exactly.
menopause. I mean, more knowledge. Somebody, it wasn't you, it was somebody else. I heard a stat the other day that erectile dysfunction in men happens to something like 4% of the male population. They use it. It has funding. I think it's like, 100% more funding for that, which affects 4%, than the whole budget that studies menopause, which obviously affects half the female population, like half the population of the planet.
Yeah, really, that's incredible.
So, like, the money that we spend on, making sure they can get it up, not even, I think it was something ridiculous, not even like 10% of the same amount of money is being spent on hormones, but specifically, menopause. And that obviously affects half the population.
Wow. That is,
So it's something crazy that affects half the population of the planet at one point or another, but we're not spending any money on it.
Well, it's still, in the UK, it's still optional for doctors to have menopause training. It's optional. So that they, out of the 7 to 9 years that they train to be doctors, they don't have to do any menopause training.
It's quite mad, obviously, for those of you that are not at the point of menopause, you might be thinking about having a child. Like I said, I was kind of fingers in the ears. I'll deal with menopause at the time. Like, la, 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 I can't hear it. I'll deal with that, when I'm old. But like you said, I had Esme when I was 39. Like, gift from God. I was so lucky to actually have that, because obviously by 34 I'd have probably already started menopause. 34, 36. So that's when you start wanting Botox, around 35.
Is that your benchmark?
Well, it's just not. There's something we stopped doing. Like, so the peak kind of
for sure.
Like, when you look lovely, and then all of a sudden your body, it's like cell reproduction.
Yeah.
So basically that's when the reproduction cells is not at the peak anymore, and it's all like downhill from there. I'm pretty sure it's like 30, and then it's like,
yeah, for sure.
You peaked. That's why they don't let anybody on Love Island that's over 30.
So perimenopause is the start, and that, like I say, that can be from age 36, maybe a lot earlier, maybe a bit later for people. You often don't notice symptoms that actually affect you day to day until you're in your early 40s. But it doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that they creep up on you really slowly. And what that starts off with is your progesterone tanking. Okay, so your estrogen will stay level for a really long time, years. So, people think menopause or perimenopause is when your estrogen starts depleting. No. What happens?
It's only when you notice.
What happens first is your progesterone tanks. Like, if you look at a graph, it falls off a cliff and it doesn't recover again. Whereas estrogen continues on its merry way for a really, really long time. And then when in proper menopause, that's when it starts going a bit haywire. But progesterone's left the building way before that. Now, what that means is that you then have too much estrogen in comparison to the amount of progesterone, because you need them to equal each other out. But your progesterone's gone, and your estrogen now is stayed the same, but it's now the predominant hormone. So too much estrogen ends up looking like all the symptoms that we sort of see, like the belly fat, weight gain, the, heavier periods, irregular periods, things like that. Now, when the doctors get involved, they just throw estrogen at the problem. But that's not the problem. It's the progesterone that's gone. Now, interestingly, we are having children later and later now. That is just a fact. We have careers and things things we want to achieve. So we, as a nation, as the Western world, we have started to have children a bit later. Now, if you imagine progesterone's tanking from around 36, and we've left it to have children into our mid-late 30s, which is super, super common, the thing that we need to make our wombs prepare for a baby is progesterone.
And it's not there.
And it may not be there. And that's the fertility challenges that we're seeing.
If you get pregnant and you're not producing that, is that where the risk
miscarriages? So
it won't hold.
So what happens is your adrenal glands have to produce they have to produce enough progesterone to get you to the 12-week mark, rough 12 to 14 weeks, and then your placenta takes over making the progesterone. So that's why you're not supposed to tell people you're pregnant until you're 12 weeks, because it's the danger zone. Because
you need it to transfer.
Yeah, you're more likely to miscarriage in those first 12 weeks, because especially when we're looking at the progesterone, you need enough progesterone to support a pregnancy, and you need enough to get you to that 12, 14 week part where your placenta will then take over making the progesterone. So if your adrenal glands aren't pumping out enough, unfortunately, it won't be enough to support that pregnancy. And that's where you see a lot of miscarriages happening in the first 12 weeks, especially women mid to late 30s.
It's quite mad, isn't it, really? It's one of those things, I mean, I've said many times before, like women are told, you can have it all. You can have it all.
And that's the thing. And
it's not true.
It isn't true. And this is what I do spend a lot of my time telling people, like either yacht crew or professionals, busy professionals who have had the careers, they've had it all. And then I'm seeing on their test results clinical burnout, and I'm trying to undo that narrative that actually, as women, we are not built to have it all.
We're built to have babies.
We are built to have help and be provided for to facilitate babies making
human beings. We are designed for.
But also when it comes to like our stress hormones, like men can deal with stress hormones better than a woman's body can. Fact, So our adrenal glands cannot keep up with the modern world stresses in the same way. So we were told, we are literally that generation that we're told we can have everything. We can do it all. We can have the career.
Not just we can do it. You should do it.
Yeah, this is our generation.
If you want to have any kind of self-worth, you've climbed the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they weren't even talking about kids. If anything, coupled that with the pills being given out like Smarties, they were kind of saying don't.
Yes, but what they were also saying was you can have the career, but also have dinner ready on time. Yeah. Also go to the gym. Also look fabulous. Also don't age. We were given all these instructions to do it all. And I'm telling you, women are not built to do it all. And I have clients where I'm having to change that narrative that they have. And it's not until you get a test result that says you're in clinical burnout. So clinical burnout, because people talk about cortisol, high cortisol all the time. Like it's all on social media. Oh, to bring your cortisol down, do this. Well, what I see more often is flatline cortisol, like none. Your body has gone, I've done this for so long.
I'm done.
I can't do it any longer. And it's just gone, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Wow. And the symptoms of high cortisol and baseline nothing is really similar. So you are in actual burnout where you're not producing, because we need cortisol. Cortisol is what gets us up out of bed every day. So without cortisol, we cannot function. We need cortisol, but we need it at the right times of the day, in the right amounts, in a happy body that's like, producing all these stress hormones in response to the right things. So that would be exercise at the right time of day. So that's something I'm always telling people is people, especially yacht crew, that are doing stupid like HIIT workouts or CrossFit workouts at silly times of the day, your hormones will not thank you for that. Your cortisol should be high in the morning because that's what gets you out of bed every single day. Without it, so people with burnout, don't have that. They struggle, they walk around like zombies all the time because they have no drive to get out of bed. They haven't got that cortisol spike. So we need the cortisol spike in the morning and then it tapers off throughout the day. So if you then try and spike it at, 9, 10 o'clock at night with a crazy workout, that's going to have a knock-on effect to all your other hormones, like melatonin, and sleepy hormone. Yeah. But also melatonin is hugely related to your blood sugar hormones. So that'd be like, so you've got adrenaline and cortisol for low blood sugars. You've got insulin for high blood sugars. Melatonin like dictates all of those things. So if you're messing with your sleep, you're also messing with your blood sugars, which also mess with your stress hormones and your sex hormones. Wow. It's all connected.
It is all connected. So just to talk about, obviously, if you look at trends, because you talked about cortisol, it's all over Insta.
Yeah.
Reduce your cortisol if you've got this and whatever. People popping a melatonin pill.
Right, yeah.
That's messing.
It's messing.
So, from what I see, because people are giving it to their kids, don't get me wrong, there are moments where I'd love to sedate my child. There's definitely some moments in time I'm like, oh, if you could just fall asleep right now, that'd be really handy. Again, they're developing.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't mess with them.
No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't mess with them.
But so when you know, I have used real melatonin as in protocols, treatment plans for people as a short-term thing to get under something. But ultimately, we're not treating the sleep problem. Oh, you're not sleeping. You need more melatonin. And then throw this at it. What I do as a functional health practitioner, so functional health is getting to the root causes of problems. Mm-hmm. So it's not the why is your melatonin low? No, it's not that, oh, your melatonin's low. It's why is it low? So I find out, well, what's going on further up in the chain, you know, or down in the chain. You know, what is it that's out of balance that is causing you to have low melatonin? Yeah. And that could be so simple.
Well, for me, it's perimenopause.
Yeah.
So I started, like, only when it's bad, if I have a few nights where I'm not sleeping, because you get, like, the joys. I'm not going to bore everybody with perimenopause, but, like, night sweats, lovely.
Yeah, fun,
basically,
right?
wake up in the middle of the night on fire.
Yeah.
But also insomnia can be a bit of a thing. So I have tried it, the melatonin. If I need, again, if it's one of those things like I've got an important meeting and we've got to go and do something, I'm like, right, I'm going to take it tonight to try and ensure that I get a good night's sleep, because otherwise I'm going to be screwed tomorrow. Get funky dreams, though.
Yeah.
Like really intense kind of dreams. But, you know, it's just the latest, it's fads, isn't it? There's a new fad every
So how I would work is I would take a full health history, you know, so it's not like a blanket, like, oh, if this is this, then you should do this, because it really depends on the individual, like completely. Everyone's different. So I take a full health history. But when it comes to melatonin, how do you know your melatonin is low other than the symptoms of struggling to sleep? Is that it? Yeah, exactly. So I would get lab tests, see if your melatonin is low, because it may not be that anything to do with your melatonin, nothing at all. So then you're taking a melatonin, giving you weird dreams, might help you for a bit, but it's not getting to the. You've still got a hormone imbalance somewhere else that isn't being addressed at all. So I wouldn't give out melatonin as a first protocol unless a test result says your melatonin is low. And even then I would investigate why, but maybe in the short term we'll use actual melatonin. Also, what you could do is way more simple than that. Dial it right back and just be like, okay, melatonin-rich foods. Let's have some tart cherries just before you go to bed. You know, with some Greek yogurt or something, you know, stuff like that to produce the melatonin. Also do your sleep hygiene, you know, all the things, no blue lights. You know, if you do need to use screens, you use blue light blocking glasses. Make sure you're in a cold room, maybe a weighted blanket. You could do lavender smells, eucalyptus smells, really promote good sleep. You know, things like that. There's lots of things we can try first. Also, magnesium, high dose magnesium just before you go to bed. So like half an hour before you go to bed, high dose magnesium. That'll, you know, could possibly also give you some weird dreams, but at least you'll sleep, you know. And when it comes to supplements, not all supplements are equal. You know, I wouldn't suggest going to the supermarket and buying the supplements. God knows what are in them. But if you work with a practitioner or get pharmaceutical grade supplements, then you do know what they say is in there, and it's not talcum powder.
It's just kind of a bit of a minefield out there, isn't there?
Exactly.
Like, at this moment in time, you know, in the wellness sphere, there's a lot going on. And I think there's a lot going on because also coming through the pandemic, people are like, what?
I think a lot of people don't have any trust anymore, so they're looking for the information themselves. You know,
it's, you know, one of those things, you know, we, especially my generation, we've ended up taking a jab for no apparent reason. Like, we weren't at risk. The only people that were at risk, you know, it was, so there's a lot of suspicion, a lot of people very, very skeptical.
A lot of trust issues now, and I think it's great that the health and wellness world, people looking for doing their own research. I always say this to people, like, these are my recommendations, but please do your own research. Yeah, you know, because I think it is way better when someone understands why they're being given something and look into, is this the right fit for me? You know, seeing it for themselves, because I'm from a generation that, you know, in the health world, we were just like, you'd go to the doctor for something, they'd give you a prescription, you wouldn't even know what it was, no one's explained anything to you, you take it, and then you get another symptom a little bit further down the line, you go to the doctors for that, you'll see someone different, they'll give you a prescription for that, but no, they haven't checked that works with that thing. And I've got clients that are on so many different medications. They don't know what they're for. They don't know how they interact with each other. And they don't know the side effects. No one's explained anything. So that's why I'm like, be informed. I encourage that all this speak, even if it is on social media, and, you know, some of it's wrong, but at least I see it as a positive that people are finding their own information out.
I don't think it's not like, we were talking about pregnancy before we came on, and I like to know. So I am very happy to fly down a wormhole, rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it, about a topic, just to kind of get a better understanding of it. And with pregnancy, I was all over it, like one born every minute. I think I watched every single episode. Yeah. Where I've spoken to ladies that, like, their last thing that they ever wanted to do was watch an episode. But from my perspective, I just found it empowering. You're just absorbing. If you can sit there and watch Below Deck, do you know what I mean? You just watch it in that kind of context, because you don't understand how much information you're putting in. Yeah. And it does build confidence. Yeah, they have hairy moments, and it does look like it's painful. But it's, you know, it's all information.
I think the word empowerment there, I think that's great. Like, health empowerment is so important.
And you shouldn't, I sit here in my perimenopause knowing full well that I was just like, it's just one of those things that I'm like, I don't want to know.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't want to know, but I have to know.
Yeah, now. So
yeah, and I'm reluctantly throwing my body down a rabbit hole.
And I think, you know, prevention is always better than cure. And I can shout,
prevent the perimenopause. Yeah,
I can prevent huge fallout. Yes, yeah. So that's the thing. I can shout from the rooftops, you know, to all these, like, all the crew in the 20s, being like, you know, if you start looking after yourself now, you'll sail through this. The reality is they're not going to listen, okay? So the reality is people don't seek help until they need help. And it's not too late. Everything's reversible. Even diabetes, like type 2 diabetes, is reversible. Everything's reversible until it's not.
Well, fertility is probably something I wouldn't want to mess with.
Well, yeah, there is that.
Because a lot of that isn't reversible.
But your chances can be optimized massively. That's what I do, you know, people who are having challenges, but they haven't been given a reason. So it's unknown infertility, you know, there is no reason. They've had some tests, you know, but there's no reason it's not happening for them. Come to someone like me, will optimize your lifestyle to make it the best possible. Because, you know, I'm not looking at how many eggs you've got left, although that is a part of it. But, you know, you go to a fertility specialist, I'll tell you how many eggs you've got left. But if you've gone down that road and you're like, okay, there is no known reason why this isn't happening, but we've been trying for a really long time. Nothing's happening. Okay, right. Let's look at everything. Let's look at your hormones. Let's look at your gut. Let's look at your immune system. Let's look at your thyroid. Let's look at your vitamin D levels. Let's look at everything and see if we can optimize things. But for the NHS, vitamin D is hugely important for pregnancy. Massive, absolutely massive. NHS in the UK, they don't care if your vitamin D, they say you're fine as long as it's over 50. Okay. Yes, it's true. You won't die with vitamin D levels of 50. Okay. You won't die. But is it optimal to have a pregnancy? Absolutely not. You need at least double that. At least. Wow. But your test results or your blood tests that they've done will come back normal. Everything's normal. Well, it's not normal. It's barely normal, barely. You won't die, but you won't be able to make a pregnancy happen. So, go to someone like me who sort of knows what's optimal for a pregnancy, not what's possible. Yeah. And the same with thyroid. So if you go to the doctors, they will test your TSH levels for your thyroid. There are so many more factors that could be tested, but they only test TSH. You could also test T3, T4 antibodies, but they don't look at any of that. They just test TSH. Now, I think the NHS limits are anything that's below, above 4, then you may need medication. So they look at something like, okay, it's 4 point something. They'll look into medication for your thyroid. But optimal thyroid levels are 0. It should be as close to 0 as possible. So I'd say someone who's anywhere near 4 has issues, but it's not bad enough to be medicated. That's all.
Yeah, but that's our health service in a nutshell, isn't it? Unless you're dying, there's no point.
Our health service is defensive, but also that's a lot of people's mentality is defensive. Prevention is better. So to be proactive, someone in their 20s, to be like, actually, I could optimize myself now so that I will have an easygoing, perimenopause or fertility, But unfortunately, we don't do that, do we? We wait until there's a problem, then we seek help. But and there isn't too many services out there that can be proactive.
I think that's quite a nice way of putting it. And if you spoke to obviously a 20-year-old on board, are you going to have kids? They'll be like,
yeah, I'm too busy drinking rosé.
I think it's changing rather than being told what we were told, just in case you do want to at some point. Maybe put these things in place. I mean, like a no-brainer. Nobody, like I said, I was prime example. I don't want to think about menopause, but if you just gave me an easy option to kind of make sure that I don't literally lose my mind, because that's literally what it feels like. It's like an out-of-body experience. I am 100% convinced that all the nursery rhymes and children's stories about the witch in the woods were just menopausal women.
Oh yeah,
probably. All the stories back in the day of the witches, they're naked in the woods with grey hair, and they're just
having a hot flash.
They're having a hot flash, and they're mean to people because they can't be asked. They literally can't be asked if anybody's shit anymore. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take myself away. I'm going to live in the woods. Can't be bothered with any of you. Yeah, I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
I can really, they do, from my understanding, estrogen's the nice hormone, that can make you very nice to people. And, if yours is out of whack, I ain't got any.
Right. So, it's actually progesterone that makes you nice to people. So when that fucks off,
it's over.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my cabin in the woods.
Progesterone is, again, the medical model just think it's all to do with the womb lining, but actually progesterone makes you a much nicer person. It's your calming hormone. So without that, whereas estrogen is actually an exciter hormone. So it actually, that's why they need to act together. And when it comes to, if there was a tip I could say is for anyone younger who isn't even thinking about fertility or perimenopause yet, but if there's a way that you can just think, okay, maybe I should be thinking about just making my life a little bit easier, giving myself all that bandwidth ready for this this hormonal shift,
whether you like it or not.
And that would be to balance your blood sugars by the way that you eat. Okay, it's not about restriction. I'm always telling people to eat more, if anything, but it's the way you eat, the foods you choose to eat, because you need to have balanced blood sugars. When your blood sugars are not balanced, the spikes will cause insulin to come out to play to deal with the sugar spikes. Your pancreas is responsible for making that insulin, but your pancreas's main job is digestion. So all the time it's dealing with the insulin thing, it's not doing the digestion thing as well as it should do. So that's when we get IBS. Now, once insulin's dealt with the sugar, you get the crash. And as high as your blood sugars go up, they have to go down as equal amounts. So it'll go down too low, which is when adrenaline and cortisol have to come out. When you get low blood sugars, adrenaline and cortisol have to come out to deal with that, to make your blood sugars high again.
So to put that in context, when you are walking through the crew mess, those chocolate bars that are there, perhaps try not to, keep walking.
It depends. It depends. It's not about restriction.
Or maybe don't have a chocolate bar every time you walk past.
It depends. It depends on the type of chocolate bar. Dark chocolate is hugely beneficial. So dark chocolate real chocolate is actually fermented. So that's a fermented food, really good for your gut microbiome, also packed full of polyphenols, which are really good for your gut microbiome, which will have a knock-on effect with your immunity and your hormones. So chocolate is hugely beneficial. This is why I don't agree with people that say, oh, you shouldn't eat any ultra-processed foods. It's like, well, come on, like dark chocolate doesn't flow from the Aztec mountains and rivers. Like, it is a processed product.
You can only eat it processed.
You can only eat chocolate processed. And it has lots of benefits, health benefits. But what I'm talking about real chocolate, like something like Cadbury's in the UK doesn't even class as chocolate in the EU because it doesn't have enough cocoa in it. So like that's not chocolate.
It's not even made in the UK anymore.
I think it's still made in Bourneville, isn't it?
No,
it's just owned by Americans.
Yeah. So they've shipped it out. This is one of the other things as well, like especially with food, I mean, there's so much. I mean, that's another podcast episode in itself. Food. So like maybe I'm just gonna not go down there. We'll stick with the joy of hormones for today. Although we have spoken for quite some time. So to summarize, hormones, I suppose in a way it is quite complicated because nutrition affects hormones, hormones affect nutrition. Like
it's all connected.
It is all interconnected. What I would probably say is don't be afraid. It is complicated. You've got to kind of start somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it all does sound quite intense and it's a lot of information in the beginning. But that's because you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm. And
if you start building your foundational knowledge, start with nutrition, then obviously start educating yourself on hormone fertility and everything else. So at least you've got the option. Also, stress and hormones and nutrition on board are vital. And I think the industry is starting, people that work in the sphere of the industry are starting to understand you can't separate one from the other. We can't rabbit on about mental health all the time, but then feed the crew complete shit and not help.
So mental health.
Do you know what I mean?
It's hormonal. Mental health is hormonal, as in like your neuro pathways that create your personality is as a result of your hormone balance. So someone who suffers with mental health issues, what are you eating? What's your stress levels like? How do you detox? Like how's your body functioning? What's your methylation like? Those are the things that I'm looking at, not like, yes, anxiety, of course, is a thing that, really prevalent, especially amongst the the yacht crew industry. But let's look at the physical health as well as the mental health. It is interconnected. You can't look at one without the other.
We also got a double whammy being a girl.
Yeah.
Because your hormones change monthly.
Exactly. Cycle.
So like
daily. Your hormones will fluctuate throughout the day.
So it just sucks. Sometimes. We are capable, don't get me wrong, of doing the most incredible thing.
I love women because we're amazing.
We are amazing. But the more I talk to different individuals and the more I understand, this whole world is literally against us in so many different ways. Now, I'm not talking about obviously our current situation with fertility and everything else, but historically,
women
it's not been a great ride for us, at all. But
have you read Unwell Women?
No.
Oh, okay. I recommend everyone read that. Okay, how women have been treated throughout history is unbelievable.
So it's kind of mad. So like the rabbit holes I get thrown down because obviously doing this and important issues and everything else, I also voluntarily throw myself down other rabbit holes just out of interest. And I've been learning about Mary Magdalene recently. I love history, absolutely love it. My child is going now to a church school. So I don't know, it's just kind of come back in my life. I was taken to church by my great-grandmother back in the day. So it just kind of came back into my life. The story about her, like, it just winds me up. It really does.
Explain.
Well, she was, if you say Mary Magdalene to most people, if you have been to church, obviously some knobhead came out a few centuries ago, said she was a prostitute.
Which I know isn't true.
An absolute load of tosh.
Yeah, I have heard
basically.
that. Yeah.
And obviously, like I love collecting stories about pioneering women. Like, and obviously there's a few from back in the day where to be known now is an achievement considering the situation that they were in. Any woman or famous individual woman's name that from history, they weren't just badass, they were like ultra badass because we still know of them today. So whatever they did, she is like, it's literally blown my mind about understanding who this woman was. And obviously you go down the Jesus kind of thing. I've never really resonated with Christianity because obviously it's all from a male perspective. So I can't resonate with any of that. But I'm now getting the girl side, which has obviously been suppressed because they needed to control us. And obviously, whether you like it or not, we were a bit of commodity. Amazing rabbit hole. I honestly highly recommend any woman to throw herself down that spiritual rabbit hole.
Interesting.
Of, listening, like obviously I've covered all different types of media and it's like that's a really strong hole to go down. It really makes me, you can really see the journey, if you're talking about the journey of women and even our experience to this current day, it makes a lot of sense. Wow. It just makes me really angry at the same time because we are living in a world that's constantly battling with itself. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we're not in the correct place to provide balance. We are just as important as our male counterparts, but we are not them. We have our own set of skills, our own set of strengths, and we do need to work with them. But humankind has never let us on an even playing field.
I think you'd love this book, Unwell Women. It's heartbreaking. Yay! Yeah, but I think it's all what you were just talking about.
It's quite mad. Really, there's lots to hope for right now, I have to say, in the female experience, and we'll finish our episode off. Like all I want to do with all of these episodes and talking like to great individuals like yourself is to empower. that time when you're on board at this incredible moment where you're traveling and it's an insane experience, you don't need to sacrifice all of the other shit.
You don't need to
You will
sacrifice
end up going through
your core values.
Yeah.
You don't need to sacrifice your core values. You also, you
can
are,
optimize, like you said, you can optimize.
you
that
are an
experience.
autonomous adult at the end of the day, even if you are told what time to go to bed, what you have to eat. Like you don't have to be told those things. You are an autonomous adult. You can make your own decisions. You can say, actually, no, that's not going to be any good for me. And actually, I need an 8-hour rest, and that's my right, and I'm going to take that. And, so just to be told things on board and say you have no choice, not true.
It's not true.
Empowering people to say what is best for them.
But you can't say what's best for you if you don't know.
Exactly. You don't know your options.
So like that's the thing. And these are what these episodes are all about. It's been good.
Yeah. So
Good.
I provide hormone health for yacht crew and anyone really. But I use functional lab testing that is available globally. So it doesn't matter what port you're in. The courier will bring the tests to you. They are either urine, saliva, blood spot tests, or stool tests that you do in your cabin. And then the courier will come collect it, take it to the lab in that country, analyze the results. I get the results. I interpret the results. I then give you treatment plans. And
I mean, it could, like, in one of those things, I've never really thought about this, but like most groups of females, crew members, I've been on board and we've done a diet together. Mm-hmm. You could all get together and go, you know what, let's find out. Yeah. It can be a research experiment. Yeah. You can do it with your crew members. It doesn't need to be this dark, sinister thing that you're not well or whatever. You could get ahead of the game and go, what? Let's have a look.
I tell you what, a great test to get ahead of the game is a genetics test. It's a one and done thing because you only have to have a genetic test once in your life because your genes don't change. But your epigenetics say that you can turn those genes on or off. So you can get test your DNA, your genetics to say, and it will literally tell you, okay, this is how I need to eat for my body. There's a gene variation that means that you cannot metabolize coffee the same way someone else who doesn't have that gene. So knowing that could change your life. That's just one example. Like knowing that, okay, I can't have that coffee because it does this to me. And knowing that will mean that you'll never have to have weight issues again. You'll never have to have, headaches when you eat certain things. You'll never have to have bloating again. Just knowing what foods genetically you can have. That's getting ahead of the game. That'll change the whole course of your life. You'll never have to worry about it because you just know. You know.
That's a really good idea, actually. If there are any crew members out there and you're all girls together and you're pretty cool, because you'll learn.
You'll learn about you.
Yeah, but you'll learn about you by also comparing yourselves to your other individuals. So, they'll have something that you won't. And,
How many crew get together?
Anybody wants to experiment, we'd love to actually talk to all of you before, after, what you've learned. It'd be really cool.
Because how many crew get together and they go, right, we're all going to lose a stone and we're all going to do this.
What I mean.
And then you compare yourself to your cabin mate who's the different size to you, maybe doing better on this diet, losing all this weight, and you're doing the exact same thing. You're like, why isn't this working? Well, you're built differently. Knowing that what she can eat may not be something you can eat because your genes say that you don't work that way.
Well, there you go. You've heard it here first. If you want to be crew members that experiment with this, like I said, it sounds all very intense, but we're talking about if you don't. So if you can get ahead, then a lot of these things could be mitigated, avoided completely. So you just don't know. It's been fab.
Thanks.
I think we
for
can
having
talk
me.
about it. We could get sidetracked and go down different various rabbit holes.
I could come back. We could talk about gut health another time.
What we could do is we could stick out some questions. If you've got any questions and stuff like that, Nat would 100% be happy to answer those questions. So we'll do a bit of a questionnaire a Q&A. But yeah, pleasure.
And I assume all my details will be
obviously
below.
All the links will be provided. Below.
So any questions as well for me, just get in touch. I do free 15-minute calls. So
I have to say, I've never met anybody to get so excited about hormones.
Oh, I gets me going.
I can tell. Whereas I'm like, oh no. If you've enjoyed this episode, we've obviously got more. Obviously, this is the new, refreshed Superyacht Laundry podcast. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.